Resume recording. Okay, welcome to the third day, the last day, the grand finale of the 3-day free chakra intensive, part 3, your chakras and your spirit. I wanted to talk because I realized a lot of you know me, but a lot of you don't know me. So I wanted to give you a summary of who I am and what my background is and what my training is. So I have a master's degree in teaching and education, and I taught high school for 10 years. And I taught, although I was the regular education English teacher, I taught mostly special education classes, teaming with a special education teacher. So I'm very well aware of all the special education requirements and students and IEPs and so forth. I also have a bachelor's in literature and creative writing, which is where I get my linguistics and my language and understanding of how words and language work. And I have a really fine-tuned ear because of that. And I'm a certified yoga instructor and a yoga teacher trainer. I used to travel the country for about 10 years. I traveled to yoga studios and taught yoga teachers all about the chakras. I'm a Reiki master. I used to teach Reiki to students. And I'm an initiated shamanic elder. I spent 6 years studying in depth with shaman Malidoma Somé, who was from Burkina Faso. And he initiated a group of elders here in America based on the tribal traditions from his tribe in Dagara, or the Burkina Faso and the Dagara tribe. I'm also a published author. I have 7 books on Amazon, all kinds of books. There's a memoir, there's a novel, there's the Goldilocks Principle, which is about the chakras, and a lot of the work that we go through here is in those books. And then I'm a linguistics nerd. I just love to study how words work and how language works. And I'm a neuroscience geek. So I'm this real weird blend of like science and spirit grounded in woo-woo. And in the Masterclass, when you want to look at the review of this, you can pull up the slides of all of these classes and you can read this in a lot more depth. It's really small print here, but I just want to share with you that I've survived through a whole lot of crap. Depression, anxiety, body dysmorphia, eating disorder, chronic insomnia, divorce, bankruptcy, unemployment. I even straightened my own scoliosis. And I've done all the things. I've done the doctors, the chiropractors, the therapists, the holistic health counselors, the energy healers, the astrologers, the meditation instructors, the psychics, the shamans. I've worked with all those kinds of healers. And I now am one of those healers. I'm a spiritual mentor. So I help you turn your uglies upside down to find the pretties. I hold your hand and ask just right questions to get you digging into yourself and finding your true wisdom through all the stuff you've dealt with. And I have this magic gift of taking the ugliest things you've been through in life and turning them into, this is what you learned and how you grew and why you needed to go through that to be who you are today. So that's a lot of what I do. And so now let's review what we went through the first day and the second day, the chakras of your body and of your mind. So my definition of the chakra system is the energetic and neurological wiring system of all of your body life experiences. So every stimuli you've ever taken into your body lives in your nerves, lives in your spinal cord, lives in your brain, and works with your chakras. It's all kept there in this massive database. And then it's also all the history of your cumulative memories and your perception of those memories and your perspective of what you went through and your remembering. And then it's also the collective history of all of your ancestors, every ancestor going all the way back to the beginning of time. And that's what we're going to dig into today. First, review your chakras in the body. The chakra system is embedded into your human body central nervous system. It is your nervous system. And the chakra's purpose is symbolized in each of the functions of the related body parts. So if you look at the chakra ladder and where the chakra lives within the body, and you analyze the metaphor symbolism of what that body part does, it shows you what that chakra is about. For example, the pelvic bowl holds and lets go. Your pee, your poop, your reproductive organs, all they do is about holding and letting go. So your sacral chakra, which lives in that part of your body, is about holding on and letting go. And a chakra bandha is a brain-body awareness, getting your brain and your body to talk to each other by squeezing and manipulating how your chakra is held in space inside your body. So how you align your bones in posture and how you move your muscles around that chakra in movement, that helps balance them. And that's a bandha, the exercise of moving the muscles and the bones around where the chakra lives. And that helps balance your chakras. And finally, repeating that action over and over and over again can help align your chakras to better function. Then we go into the chakras and your mind. In the chakras in your mind, your brain and your chakras function based on your thoughts, your actions, your conditioning, and your genetics. So your brain has a filtration system called RAS, your reticular activating system. It's the brain filter that makes you pay attention to what you've decided in your brain is important. And how your brain decides what's important is based on what you do. So being mindful in what you think and how you speak and how you act is one way to train your RAS, your filter, to change what you symbolize in the functions in your body parts, what you have in your body parts. And that repetition of what you think, what you do, how you act, that changes the wiring of your chakras and changes the wiring of your brain. So now we move on to the block chakras, or how do your chakras get impeded by your spirit? When your chakras aren't functioning, the result in your spirit is, these are things that happen when your spirit isn't in alignment, when your chakras aren't in alignment. You get depressed, you get anxious, you get anger and rage or extreme irritation. You feel disconnected from yourself, from others, from nature, from your world. You feel this overall sense of distrust and not really believing anything around you. And that leads to feeling lost and empty. Essentially, all of this is a lack of spirituality. And when that happens, you have this overall imbalanced feeling because it's like your spirit and your body are not connected and you feel like you're floating around. So I want to ask you, let's pause, resume recording. Again, if you're feeling those things, those existential questions, this is a great time to schedule that chakra reading with me. So what is it that blocks your chakras in, or changes or manipulates or challenges your chakras within your spirit? In your spirit, number one is if you're ignoring your truth. If you're not behaving according to what is really meant for you to be in your truth and in yourself, it's going to manifest in chakra blockage in your system and in your spirit. Number two is genetic patterning. We all have in our genetic histories times that our ancestors also did not match with their truths. And then those patterns became our genetics and traditions and things that don't fit with who we really are, but we just do them because they're traditions or because we've always done them that way. That patterning can collide with what we're really meant to do on our vibration and our energy. And so that can be an issue, as can be the ancestral histories. So if you think back into the ancestors and what your ancestors might have done that goes against humanity, that goes against the truth of spirituality, that goes against the concept of the golden rule. I just realized this in my own work, in my own chakra and spiritual work for myself, that one of the things that stops me from being as big in my profession and in my career as I would like to is that I have in my ancestry the patterning that women need to depend on men. My grandmother was totally subservient to my grandfather. She was the typical 1950s housewife, and she subserved everything to him, and it was all about him. She didn't make money, he did. And then my mother didn't make money, my dad did. And my mother was told by her father, you're going to do this when you graduate. When you go to college, you're going to major in these things and you're going to find a husband and you're going to have babies and raise those babies. And she did, even though she wanted to do other things. She broke that pattern with me where she said, hey, you can go be whatever you want to be, but that long ancestral line of women depending on their men still lives in my ancestry. And so I need to work on that, to heal that, to get my chakras to open up, to say, yes, TeriLeigh, you can make money yourself, and a lot of it. So how do we do that? How do we work on those ancestral patterns and that deep genetic history? Ancestor work. We have to develop relationships with our ancestors, and I'll show you how that works. Connecting with nature, which helps you then connect with your true nature. And breath work. Going back every single day, I've said breath work is key. Breath work is very, very key to getting your spirit in line, but I'll explain to you why later today. So I want to tell you a story first. And some of you may know this beautiful soul. Some of you may have heard this story before. And if you do, throw it in the chat and say, oh, Julie, I love Julie. Julie is one of my best friends. I met Julie the week I opened my yoga studio in 2005. She walked in the door and she said, I just retired from teaching and I'm going to learn yoga. And she came to my class 3 days a week and we became fast friends. And within 2 years, I was going down to Florida to visit her every winter while she vacationed in Florida for the winter. And every month for many, many years, we had lunch and we talked about life when we solved all the problems of the universe over lunch. She was a beautiful soul. One of those people that just lit up the room for everyone she ever met, and very much a lot like me. On my birthday, 2019, I got a call from her husband saying, Julie can't meet you for lunch today because she fell and broke her neck and she's in the hospital. And so I went to the hospital and she was having surgery and she spent the next 6 months in a wheelchair. She did break her neck. She did not lose feeling or sensation, but she lost all of her function. So she could move gross motor function if she really, really, really focused on it. And she felt everything. As an empath and a highly sensitive person, she not only felt everything, it's like that neck break made everything fire even more. So those 6 months from July until January when she died, I took care of her as much as I could. I was there at least once a week in the beginning. And then towards the end, I was there every single day feeding her breakfast because she couldn't feed herself. And one day during her third UTI, she just looked me in the eye and she said, TeriLeigh, I'm done. I'm just done. I'm ready. I'm ready. And I said, okay, you're ready. I believe you. I love you. This is the time. And what I saw over the course of the whole 6 months, but especially in those last 2 days before she died, was her aura and her chakras. They beamed bigger and brighter over the whole 6 months. It was like she was spitting energy of herself out at every single person she met. And I could see them all just like, it was like she was injecting herself into them with everything she said, every smile she made, every connection she made through that whole 6 months. And then in the last 2 days, I watched her energy, like I had with other people I had watched die. I watched her energy just sort of get absorbed by the atmosphere. It was like she evaporated and became everything. And when she died, I had this amazing feeling of, I don't miss her because she is me. She's in me. And every piece of me that she had ever touched lit up brighter. And now even just talking about her, I can feel her really, really, really alive inside me. And I can feel her glinting and smiling. I am her legacy because everything she ever said vibrates inside me. She trips my triggers. She makes me vibrant and alive just by thinking of her. And that is what I think the energy of the chakras does with the ancestors. So we have to ask that question, what happens when we die? My short answer is we can't really know till we get there. The first person I really ever loved and cared about who died in my life was my minister. Philip Laporte. Reverend Philip Laporte died when I was in my early 20s, and he was someone who counseled me through all the teenage angst, all the college woes, even a pretty severe depression after my grandfather died. And I asked him that question, what happens when we die? And he said, I don't know. I'll find out when I get there. And I really do believe that we can't know, and we'll find out when we get there. But what I do know is that in my experience, I've watched the auras and the chakras of 3 people dying, 4 people actually. 2 of them I was physically present with as they died. 2 of them I was part of their hospice care process, and one of them I was there visited her during hospice care. And all of them, I watched their auras evaporate into the atmosphere. I watched them just become the oneness. And so that also leads me to this concept. Have you ever heard the concept in the scientific study of Caesar's last breath? Take a breath right now. Within that breath, you just breathed at least 1 atom of Caesar's last breath. So every single breath you take, you're inhaling particles of Caesar's last dying breath. So my theory, I think Nancy asked this yesterday, my theory of past lives is that we are the collective energy of everything in the universe. We're constantly recycling all those particles. I inhaled Julie's last breaths when she was in her last days. She became part of me. I assimilated those atoms and particles into me. And then those atoms and particles moved around and bounced around inside my system, and they became part of my chakra energy. And every breath I'm taking the breath somewhere in those particles is particles of every other living being on the planet. So we are the oneness. So when someone says, I was Cleopatra in a past life, well, sure you were. Of course you were, because somewhere in you is atoms and particles that carry the memories of all of that person's life. And if you have a few more of them bouncing around you than the average person, because for whatever reasons, maybe you are a lineage line of Cleopatra, then she's part of your ancestry. And that's all in the legacy of the atoms and molecules and the energy and the chakras that are carrying those memories and that DNA and that energy. Anyone have your minds blown yet? So I'd like to pause and see what you're thinking and what you're. Your ancestry, even and especially the ancestors we didn't like, are very important in our systems and in our souls as our allies, because they live in our bone marrow. They live in our DNA circles, in our DNA ladders. They're inside us. And if they did things that we don't like, if they were part of being not right with their true self, and that vibrates inside us, their memories are contradictions in our system. And those contradictions are causing us to feel off balance. So we need to redefine, reframe our ancestry, our relationship with those ancestors, and find ways to make them our allies. Because you know what? Those ancestors that screwed it all up by not being true to themselves, they're now part of the oneness. They get it. They're aware of the entire truth of the universe. And they're like, I got to fix what I did wrong. But they can't, because they're not in the physical anymore. The only way they can is through you. So those memories, those ancestral genetic lines inside you, that is those ancestors that we didn't like, that did the ugliest things, we reconcile with them, we heal with them, we heal that part of them inside us, and we have the greatest wisdom and the greatest growth. We reconcile with them in spirit, and that healing is the greatest growth. They want to right their wrongs from your childhood development, from your past and your history. The biggest picture on my ancestor shrine, the biggest presence on my ancestor shrine is my grandfather, Edgar. And when I was a little kid, my grandfather Edgar was the scariest man. He was an angry, grumpy, crotchety, I did not like him old man. He scared the shit out of me. I remember pretending to sleep through meals because I was too scared of him yelling at me to clean my plate when I didn't like what we were supposed to be eating, and feeling sick to my stomach about that. So I'd just fall asleep and not eat. He was so scary. And when he died and I got his huge over the fireplace mantle portrait, I said, well, I got to make friends with you, Grandpa. And so I did. And I figured out that he didn't like that he was like that to me. He wants me to do the things that he didn't do. You know what else I found out? He was reading Edgar Cayce books his entire life. He was taking detailed notes in Edgar Cayce, who was one of the greatest spiritual teachers of the 1800s. He was studying spiritual stuff and doing it in secret. There were pieces of him that are coming out in me that he kept hidden and made him angry because he kept it hidden. So now it's my job to make it voiced, make it loud. And the more I speak the truths, the spiritual wisdoms that he was studying, the happier he is inside me and the more we grow. So you got to work with those ancestors that you didn't like. They are your most powerful assets. Your chakras carry the genetic coding and collective history of your entire ancestry. Your genetic ancestors going way, 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 way back. My mom has been doing Ancestry.com for the last 10 years, and she's got our ancestry going way back to the 1400s. Oh, the things we're learning. Those lost loved ones also that are not related, they also are very memorable and influential, just like Julie, because Julie spent a lot of time with me. All that time, she was injecting pieces of herself into me, and that became part of who I am. And it gets activated with memory because it's part of that collective history. So we've got to make new relationships with those lost loved ones, both the ancestors and the ones we know who have died, even if they weren't part of our ancestry. So how do we do that? This is what DNA looks like. This is what the nervous system looks like. When you are disconnected from your ancestors, you are disconnected from the memories and truths in yourself. When someone dies, you need to build a new synapse connection in your neurology to relate to them in a new way so that you can keep your spirit energy active and alive. You know, ever since Ancestry.com came big, senior citizens have gone crazy bonkers for it. I mean, my parents spent hours and thousands of dollars studying their ancestry. And it's this desire, this craving to get connected with the truth in yourself by understanding where you came from and what lives and breathes inside your bone. One way to connect with that ancestry is to develop a spirit relationship with those lost loved ones. This is an ancestor shrine. Ancestor shrines happen in every spiritual tradition of some sort or another. By connecting with your lost loved ones and building a new relationship with them as they flow through your DNA, it activates that DNA and the memories in you to work with you and serve as the legacy. You become what they didn't finish. You perpetuate. So spiritual traditions across the globe include ancestral offerings at the altar to help connect that relationship with spirit. So I'm going to pause again. I want to see your smiley faces. Zoom recording. If you're having trouble connecting with one of your ancestors, do one of these readings and we might be able to find one that works for you. Where do your chakras live in your spirit? But one of the other ways, so yes, connecting with an ancestor is one way. Another way is to connect with nature, because nature gets it. And every single person I've ever worked with in a one-on-one session, in a class like this, they all tell me, I feel so much better when I spend time in nature. Here's why. Here's the laws of nature that we learn just by being in nature. We are one. Everything is connected. Everything is interdependent and interrelated and intersupportive of each other. We're all the same energy. We're breathing the same air, and we are that nature. So when you go out and you walk in the forest or you bathe in the sun, you feel that nature and you get energetically connected with it, and you remember the truth of everything. What goes around comes around. Nature is always in cycles. It's always cyclical, and those cycles are always evolving. We rotate around the axis of the earth. There's the day, there's the night. We revolve around the sun. There's the 4 seasons of life. Everything goes around, eventually comes around. And each time we come back around, there's a little bit more awareness to it. Nature teaches us that. This too shall pass. Nothing is permanent. Everything is temporary. Everything shifts and changes. When you go and connect with nature, your chakras naturally go back to these laws. They remember, oh yeah, we're one. Everything comes back around. This too shall pass, and it'll come back, and it'll pass, and it'll come back, and we are okay. Because every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and therefore everything eventually finds its balance. So no matter how out of whack you feel with your chakras, there are other times when you feel really in tune. And the goal is to recognize that those fluctuations are part of life, and you absorb and recognize that they're all valuable, even the unpleasant ones. Everything is always in balance. So let's talk about how the chakras relate to nature. You can activate the energy of each chakra by connecting with different elements in nature. Each chakra has its own natural element. The natural element for the root chakra is earth. So when you do things like grounding and earthing, connecting with earth, digging in the soil, potting plants, those kinds of things, you are supporting yourself. You're digging your own roots. You're connecting and healing those issues of fear, anxiety, and worry, and coming back into the balance of, I'm always supported. Think about Mother Earth. Every time you pick up your foot, she pulls it right back to her. She's always, always, always there. She always provides every single need we need. It's always there. That's why earth is so healing for the root chakra. The element for the sacral chakra is water. Everything's in flow. That control and that flow. It goes and it moves and it meanders where it needs to go. So when you use water, it will cleanse you of those emotional issues of guilt, over responsibility and under responsibility and under reliability. It'll help you find that balance of play and work and letting go and holding on. Water does that. It's also really good for giving us boundaries, by the way. The core chakra, the element, if you're having core chakra issues, remember that's about identity, power, strength. The element of the core chakra is fire. So you don't feel strong, light a fire. That's why we say light a fire inside yourself. The chakra purpose is identity and empowerment, and that's where fire comes from, your inner core fire. So when you're having issues of low self-image, weakness, self-worth, connecting with fire will help that. The heart chakra, the element for the heart chakra is air. We breathe in, we breathe out. That ethereal, effortless openness, expansive vastness of air. The chakra purpose is connection, because everything flows through breath, through air. So when you need to feel connected, you breathe. And you go, let the wind rush through your hair, and you remember that that wind in it is your grandfather, is your grandmother, is Cleopatra, is Jesus, is all the human souls that have ever been on this planet are still living in the air, still vibrating in the air. So when you're feeling grief, lonely, lack of belonging, go to air. The throat chakra, the element is mineral, stone. The chakra purpose there is about communication and truth. Well, mineral, stone, wire is what we use to communicate. It makes the most noise. It transmits noise. It transmits that communication, and it's very true in its sound. It's very pure in sound. So when you're having difficulty communicating, you can use stones, crystals, stones, elements of mineral, wire to help you connect with truth versus lies, censoring yourself or oversharing. The third eye chakra, the element of the third eye chakra is nature itself. Anything that's living, plants and animals. So one of my favorite things to do is when I need to connect intuitively with something, I pay attention to what animals show up in my daily life. This morning, coming back from my walk with my dog, I saw 2 turkeys in the road. I had to stop and wait for them to cross the road. So that was a third eye intuitive hit. Turkeys. So I go home and I Google turkey totem. Turkeys are about writing. We use turkey quills to write. I'm a writer. Okay, I guess I'm supposed to be writing some more. Then later today, as I was driving another place, I think I was driving to my friend Joe's, I saw a bald eagle in the sky. So that is power, that's grace, that's really intense, powerful American energy. So I look up eagle totem. Wow, that is potent. So the chakra purpose is intuition. So when you connect with nature, you want to see what is the symbolic nature of that animal or that plant, and what is it trying to teach me? And that'll help you trust yourself, change your perception, open your perspective, and deal with those oversensitivities, because nature is always sensitive. And lastly, your core chakra. The element there, this one could be a surprise to you. The element is spirit. And I literally mean alcohol. The purpose of the chakra is spirituality. And look, it's the word spirit, spirit. We call alcohol spirit. We use alcohol in spiritual rituals, the blood of Christ in communion. Every religious tradition somewhere uses spirit to connect with spirit, uses alcohol as a gateway to get to spirit. And so when you activate spirit, you answer these emotional questions of what's the meaning of life? Why am I here? The existential awareness. And that science versus spirit contradiction in life. And people who deal with alcoholism, they are really just craving spirituality. And they're going about it, activating spirit a little bit too much in the alcohol and not enough in the actual spirit energy of connecting with their ancestors, connecting with God, connecting with, as Hobbit and I call her, giggle bumps. So if you want to know spiritual rituals and how to use those to align your chakras, a chakra reading will start with that, but also I'll go through all of that in my immersion program that starts in January. Or if you want to do private one-on-one coaching with me, you can do that through starting anytime that you're ready to start. And I take you through the entire chakra system, what's going on with your chakra. How do you learn the bandhas to align them from the physical perspective? How do you use your language and your mind to align them more clearly that way? How do you do the shaman rituals, connecting with nature? And how do you create that relationship with your ancestors? So how do you integrate all this to align your chakras? In your spirit, you want to do this ancestor work, develop the relationship with the deceased. You want to do those elemental rituals by connecting to your truth through nature. And you do the spirit breath work. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. The ancestor work is developing that relationship with ancestors through funeral rites, ancestor altars, and offerings. Here's a little hint. You can start by inviting them to your table. When you sit down to a meal, set a little bowl aside, and the first bite of your meal, you put in that bowl as an offering to your ancestors. And you say, hey, Grandpa Igor, this one's for you, and invite them to the table of your life and see what happens. By doing these things, you will train your RAS and activate those memories. And you can even do that by asking for signs. You know, some people say, every time I see a cardinal, I think of my grandfather. So then you can train your RAS that every time you see a cardinal, your grandfather's there, and that triggers the nerves and the memories and the DNA inside you about your grandfather. And that gets your grass looking for cardinals when you need them. Nature elemental rituals, you can do that grounding and earthing, baptisms and cleansings, fire offerings, forest bathing, crystal and stones as talismans, even jewelry stones, using alcohol to toast to your ancestors. And then the breathing. Focus breathing is key. If you apply the focus breathing to everything I teach you to do, it changes everything, because the breathing is where your nervous system can make the greatest effect the fastest. And get this, the English word spirit comes from the Latin word spiritus, and the direct translation of the word spiritus is breath. So spirit is breath. Makes sense. Our last dying breath is when death happens, and when the spirit leaves the body, when the breath leaves the body. The Sanskrit word soham hamsa is the sound of the breath, and it's a very common affirmation. I am soham hamsa. Soham hamsa translates to I am. Just that, I am. I am everything. I'm part of the whole. I am all the oneness. And the sound soham hamsa is the sound that your breath makes as it moves through your system. It is the life force energy. So just by learning how to change your breathing to be more spiritually aware and make that your new all day, everyday breathing, you are connecting with spirit and aligning your chakras in everything you do. The word aloha comes from this concept as well. When in the indigenous days, indigenous peoples of Hawaii, they would greet each other by grabbing each other by the back of the head and touching foreheads and sharing breath. And aloha meant I breathe in your spirit. I see and feel and own your spirit as part of me. I am you, you are me. And that was how they greeted each other. So beautiful. And that aloha, it's not just hi, it's I am everything here in this space with you. Oh, that's gorgeous. So your brain and body learn by habit. You learn best by doing, repeating, repeating, repeating. So you pick these things, you repeat these patterns, you connect with your ancestors every day. You do something in nature every day. You breathe every day. You activate the chakra bandhas every day. You change your language and you use that new mantra and that new affirmation every day. That's where the long-lasting changes happen. Make it your new normal habit.